Dan Plesac joins us right now. Dan, thanks for coming out here.
Brian, this is a strange summer camp 2020.
Right. See, I don't know, and this is why I wanted you out here from a major league player's perspective. I don't think people realize what a sophisticated operation spring training is in getting these guys fine-tuned, so we see what we associate as Major League Baseball, because it is this incredible thing when you're watching it, and it's difficult to reach that state. So your thoughts on how different is it getting ready, a team getting ready at their one major league park?
This is unprecedented. You and I do the 30 teams in 30 days. And the first thing that we do when we pull into a camp, we pull into the Rockies camp, first thing you see the field, and you see the 7 or 8 other fields. And you're like, wow, look at all these fields. How will they utilize all these fields? Well, the infielders go to one field, the outfielders go to another, the pitchers that aren't throwing in a game go in one, and they're able to utilize 4 or 5 fields at the same time. So everybody's getting their work in at the right time in the morning, and they get this 2.5, 3-hour shift where they're able to get a lot of things accomplished. So the Yankees, the Mets, and every other team now, their meeting at the ballpark is 7 o'clock, and they're working out in shifts. And so it's 3-4 hour shifts. Then they break, they clean the locker room, and they sterilize everything, and they come back. And I think a lot of it, too, Brian, is this is a long day for the coaches. They're out there from 7 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night.
That's a good point.
And so you don't have the continuity of you're going to do cutoffs and relays. Well, you can, but you can't do it on 2 or 3 different fields. The beauty of a regular spring training is having multiple fields. You could do cutoffs and relays on 3 or 4 fields at the same time. You have the main guys of your big league team. You have the guys that are infantry that are going to be, maybe might not break the camp, but they're on your 40-man roster. And so I think for the players, this is a unusual camp, and I think the hardest part for me, if I were playing today, would be the starting and stopping. Biological clock. Every baseball player, you get home in October, you're tired, the season's end. You take November, December, you start throwing and running in January. You get to spring training, and you kind of build up to this, get to the end of camp. Well, that 2 weeks, they were just into that part of camp, Brian, where guys were starting to stretch it out. Pitchers were going into their second and their third turn through the rotation, and all of a sudden, it comes to a stop. And what makes it hard, Brian, if you're a big league pitcher and you live in Long Island, there isn't a guy down the street. He could play catch with you, but there isn't a guy that can take Brian Kenny or take Dan Plesac in 1985, and I can get the kind of work I need to be competitive with my neighbor because he has a ball and a glove.
Right. I know. We were talking to players, and they were saying, well, there's a guy who plays minor leagues in my apartment complex, so I could throw to him. He could get in the crouch, and that would be about it. The season is in 2.5 weeks, by the way. What is the state of readiness? Like, what do you think we will see when they play, given that they were off for so long, and now it's like 3 weeks of camp at best?
This is the way I look at it, Brian. I think position players are going to have an easier time being ready, physically easier to play. But I think with that said, pitchers are going to be much more ahead when this starts, because most pitchers now, they're in great shape when they come to camp. And when the season starts, even when it's in April, we always talk about the pitchers. They have the edge for about 3 or 4 weeks because guys come out of spring training, they play, they get 2 or 3 at bats, but it's the grind that you see in the regular season. Watching Garrett Cole pitch at Steinbrenner Field in spring training is different than that Garrett Cole that you're going to see the opener.
Even now,
it's another level.
Even now, there's virtual reality. They're in the cages with sophisticated pitching machines. You think that still holds?
It's easier, Brian, but I would assume that pitchers that are on top of their game when this thing starts at the end of July, I would be surprised if pitchers, you're going to see scores down lower, but I don't know if you're going to see the amount of innings from starting pitchers, but pitchers will be ahead of the hitters for at least a couple of weeks.
All right, and I know, look, again, you and I have talked about this many times. You're less on bullpenning, even though you're a bullpen ace. I don't get it. But I like the bullpen strategy. Is it all bets are off? Are we going to see teams go full bullpen, or hey, that's our one ace and everything else is tandem starts, bullpenning? What do you think we'll see?
I think we're going to see bullpenning. We're going to see teams that the crazy part of this 66 days to get in 60 games. Everybody is a threat because every team, Brian, can go on a run 25, 30 games. If you could start out the season in a 30-game stretch, and we've seen some phony teams over the course of 162 games. Go back a couple of years ago, the Seattle Mariners started out like the Yankees in the 1950s and 60s.
Last year.
And they fizzled, right?
Yeah.
And I think what's going to happen is teams that get off to a good start are going to be teams that are deep in their bullpen, that they can run 4 or 5 deep. That's why I think the Yankees, even though they're a veteran established team, they have a great reliever for the 6th, 7th, the 8th, and 9th.
Right.
They have established, polished, really good pitchers right, left from the 7th inning on.
Imagine that you can throw your A squad, we have our A squad and then we have B squad. We have a team that will go out when we're trailing, and now it's a winning game. You only have to win 35.
Right.
Win 35 and you'll be in. I want to ask one last thing. Will we get used to no fans? What do you think? What is Major League Baseball going to be like with no fans?
I'm going to say yes because I'm a big golf fan, and I watched the first tour event 3 weeks ago, and it seemed really odd seeing no galleries, no crowd, nobody around the greens, the interaction with the players and the caddies. And after watching over this weekend, I think you get more used to seeing it that way, but there's going to be that buzz. What's going to be hard for the players after about 2 weeks, when your body starts to get tired, say they get into the second week of August, there's a rush, Brian, when you go to the Bronx and for a 7:05 game.
Energy kicks in
there's
from the
just
fans.
There's an energy level there after the national anthem. There's a vibe there that gets you going. Warming up in the bullpen.
Right.
You're warming up in the bullpen at Yankee Stadium. They're playing Cotton Eye Joe in the 7th inning. You're a reliever on the road. I'm telling you, that was like my song. It was like, you better wake up now, Dan, because it's on. And that's what's going to be missing, that buzz.
That's funny because people were talking about boxing and saying that, well, you have to have the crowd. You feed off the crowd. I'm like, guys are used to fighting with nobody in just the gym guys, and you have enough to deal with in front of you. You're not worried about the crowd. Baseball, I think there is that energy that you do feel collectively.
I think for guys, it's hard to explain this. For guys that are nervous, younger pitchers, younger position players, I think this environment is going to be a little bit easier. That you don't come into that moment in Yankee Stadium or at Fenway Park or Wrigley Field, and you come into a hostile environment. It's hard not to be edgy. It's hard to be unnerved a little bit. And I think for younger players, it's going to be a little calmer environment, and it might be easier for them to perform in.